welcome or welcome back. My name is Yu Oyung. You can call me Yu Win or Win, and I'm happy that we are together whenever and wherever you are tuning in. So, this video is one in my 90 days series to speak my truth and share my story. I decided to do that in the format of YouTube videos in my channel. And I hope that this is a sign, but I also hope that you realize you don't need signs and that you are the sign. But in the case you are still getting there, like I am, I hope this inspires you to take a step in any direction towards honoring your truth. If that needs to be shared through music, through song, through performance, take the step. If it's in cooking, baking, take the step. If it's in having a tough conversation, if it's writing that text message, if it's reaching out and following up, take the step. Because if I can do this, you can do it too. And I don't know, I think I just imagine like what my community might be like if more people were able to be aligned with their truth in whatever form it needs to be expressed. So that's my invitation. I like to start my video sharing a practice, and I am going to continue by sharing a question that I want to pose to you to ponder and consider in your reflections. If you are watching in real time, we have less than a week until the new year, or it'll be the new year in a week, something like that. And so I really enjoy spending time processing the year because I don't want to carry unprocessed, unresolved things into the new year if I don't have to. I like to go in with a clear mind. And so these questions have been really helpful for me, at least in the last decade or so, the process of reflecting. And so I hope some of these questions can support you. So I will share a question. Oh, okay. So what new things do you want to try in the new year? It could be some other version. It could be what have you been meaning to do? What have you been meaning to start? What have you been hoping to start? What have you been wanting to experience? Um, so, yeah, take that question as it lands. Maybe spend some moments thinking about it and allowing yourself to dream, even if it's ridiculous, even if you have no way of knowing how to do it, even if you just give yourself 5 minutes, and then maybe spending some time making space to figure out how to do whatever it is that you want to do, and then figuring out what could go wrong and how to plan for those things. So, one of my other practices that I shared in some videos. Okay, so um, for the rest of the video, I just want to share some of the other questions and things that I've done uh, to think ahead for the new year. So, another question that I have is based on having a theme for the year or an intention for the year. So in years past I've tried that instead of goals because I couldn't come up with goals or I didn't want to use resolutions. So, for example, a couple of years ago, my word was becoming. And so the question would be, or would have been, how will you know you've achieved becoming this year? So it's how will you know you've achieved blank this year? So you get to fill in the blank, and this may take some other kinds of brainstorming or doodling or drawing or singing or whatever it takes to sort of find a word or a theme that you hope to embrace or have as your North Star next year. Another question that I have is, what would you like this chapter to be about? So if next year is a chapter, next year is a book, what would you like the book to be about? What would you love the book to be about? What would you love 2026 to feel like? So that's another question. And let's see. This has a two-parter. So, what are cautionary tales you may be worried about? Um, and then part two is, if you trusted yourself to get it right, what would you do, or what would you need to do? Um, that's another question. And then another question is a prompt. So it's, my new year will be about dot dot dot. So, what are all the things you want the new year to be about? Do you want it to be about physical health? Do you want it to be about mental health? Do you want it to be about overall health? Do you want it to be about alignment, where what you value and what you spend time doing is uh, incongruence? Do you want the new year to be about courage coming from the heart? Do you want next year to be about joy and choosing joy in as many moments as possible? Do you want the new year to be about steadfastness? Do you want to be so steady in your internal landscape that no external thing can steer you off course, right? So, all the things, pages, words, sentences, images. Um, and then, okay, so I may have mentioned this last time, but one of the other things that I do during all of this reflection and dreaming for the next year is I assess 8 dimensions of my life. I've taken categories that somebody gave me, and I've changed them to fit me. So you can find whatever works best for you. But I'll share what my um, 8 dimensions are. So the first one is personal development. The second one is finances. Third one is livelihood, which for me is like work, um, purpose, calling. The fourth one is community. The fifth one is physical environment. The sixth one is fun or recreation. Seventh one is romance slash intimacy. And then the last one is total or overall health. Okay. It's personal development, finances, livelihood, community, physical environment, fun or recreation, romance or intimacy, and then total overall health. Okay. So, what I do for each one of those categories is I assess where I'm at currently. So, whenever I do it, on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay. So then I put that number. Um, for me, I have it as a circle split up into eights. And then each eighth is one of those. And then from the center of the circle out to the edge of the circle, I have lines. So 10 lines or nine. So it goes from 1 to 10. And then I indicate it in that eighth. Okay. So, for example, in 2024, when I did this exercise, I gave myself a 9 for personal development, a 3 for finances, a 4 for livelihood, a 5 for community, a 2 for physical environment, a 3 for fun or recreation, a 5 for romance and intimacy, and an 8 for overall health. Okay, that's the first step. There's 3 steps to this, which I was like building as I did it. So the second step is after you do that, then I went through each one of the dimensions: personal development, finances, livelihood, and then I listed out the positives or the gains that helped me to, that helped in that aspect. And then I also listed out losses or things that didn't go as well. So, for example, for finances, I listed as a gain, I got a raise. Um, I had money in my savings and I made, um, or like there was some money that came in terms of heart centered and the work that I was trying to sort out. And then in the column for losses, I wrote, I spent more than I made. Okay. So, um, so I did that for all 8 of those dimensions. Okay. And then I did it in 3 columns. So I listed the dimension in one column. And then in this next column, I put gains or positive. And then the last column, I put losses or negative. Okay. So you can do that. And then the third step, which was like, oh, this is like taking me into a whole new level because I don't know if the original activity had all this stuff. I just wanted to do it. Okay, so then looking at each aspect, again using 3 columns. So let's say for my overall health was one column. And then in the second column, I listed goal or goals. So I came up with several depending on the dimension. And then in the third column, I listed action steps. Okay. So, for example, the dimension, overall health. The goal is to have or establish a signature 3-course meal. And then the action steps included: 1, identify food preferences; 2, based on preferences, find recipes; 3, cook one dish 1 to 2 times a week for 4 months; 4, narrow down favorites; 5, practice for 2 months; 6, narrow down further; 7, choose final 3; 8, practice, practice, practice. Okay, so that was one goal for total health. In the aspect of, let's see, in the aspect of personal development, I listed a goal as becoming an empowered empath. And this is a video that I had made at some point. So I listed the action steps as: discern heart of emotions; 2, acknowledge emotions; 3, discern color, shape, energy; and then 4, transmute energy. Okay. Let's see. For recreation or fun as the dimension, I listed the goal of trying 3 crafts in order to develop a skill. And so I listed trying calligraphy, soap making, and seeing if I could practice them so that I could create gifts. Okay, so I think the really helpful part of this was not only setting the goal, but also having some of those action steps. And then by chance, in June, I had a conversation with a friend who I was crafting and reflecting with at the end of last year. And we had a phone call in June, and I was like, oh, I want to revisit my goals, those action steps to see where I'm at and see what I want to shift and change. So, I am still currently working on answering the questions to reflect on this year. And then I hope to be able to finish those by the time I meet with her um, in a few days, in several days. And then hopefully I'll have the chance to dream ahead or, if I've already come up with the goals and the action steps to maybe make it cute or something. Maybe make a something visual. Also, wanted to share, and you may be already connected to this, but I had been chatting with someone and she said, "Oh, yeah, I've heard people making vision boards or bingo cards." And I was like, "Bingo cards?" And she's like, "Yeah, you list things that you want to accomplish or visit or try or see or do. And then you cover them up as you complete them." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds fun." So I wanted to share that with you in case that might be something you would like to do for yourself. I'm also super excited because my Rise and Thrive, she got me a Shani 2026 Astro Planner, and I am looking forward to seeing what might be the most fun and creative way to use it. Um, as January 1st is next week. So I'm excited to do that as well. Yeah. What do you think? How are you feeling? How are you feeling at the end of this year? Are there like words, images, songs that pop into your mind? Yeah. I guess I would just say I would not have expected this year to be the way that it was. Never would I have imagined. I probably expected this year to be more dark and more dismal and more maybe me cowering a corner somewhere waiting for the sky to fall. And there were moments of that and um, struggles with that. So, all of the things that sort of had to happen for me to be where I am now and to have had the year that I had, I think this year was a really big year for me. Um, and I'm really proud. I'm actually really proud. And this is not something that you would have found me saying last year or 10 years ago or 30 years. Like, it wasn't in my language. And I would not have felt good saying it out loud or thinking it. And so it's really interesting to be in the space to think that and feel that way and to say it out loud as well. That's really interesting. Um, I don't know if I probably didn't mention this to anyone, but as I was preparing and setting up my new desk, I was moving some things around to like make space. And I was looking at my bookshelf and I found this very special box that someone had made for me. I'm sure it was the teacher of a school site that I used to go to where I was facilitating discussions and learning and conversations around different curricula. But it was really extra special because on the top, she had these two panels and she essentially surveyed the students who were a part of those groups. And she included some of those quotes anonymously, like on the top. So it looks like this. just going to show it and then I'll read to you some of them. Um, so one of the quotes is the best thing I have learned is to be more confident. Um, One thing I will never forget is to be myself. And Wynn is one of the most real and beautiful women you could ever meet. I'm going to miss her very much. And it has been sitting in a bookshelf behind books. Um, and it holds all of my kind of like paper mementos. So, like movie stubs, concert tickets, some little things. And I was like, why isn't this somewhere where I can see it? So I took it out and I've placed it on my desk, even though the desk just has computery things for now and a coaster. But it's really special to have it. And I know I kept it for a reason. And so I wanted it to be out and visible. And so I just wanted to share that with you. So if you have something that you've been holding on to that's important and you haven't had a chance to look at it, I hope you make space for it so that you can see it regularly and maybe, say an affirmation or maybe a prayer, um, something that kind of helps to ground its importance in your life. Yeah. Phew. All right. I am going to get going and I'm looking forward to connecting with you tomorrow. And I'm sending you a big hug. I appreciate you being here. I'm happy that you showed up. Happy that you could be a part of my journey, even if I'm not in front of you and we're not having this conversation. I hope, oh, I'll leave that for tomorrow. um, but I do hope you're well and safe wherever you are. And I hope you feel loved. And I hope you feel worthy. And I hope you feel deserving. And I will talk to you soon. All right. Take good care. Okay. Bye bye.